welcome to O Cantinho Benfiquista podcast. I'm joined today by Jason. We are here to preview the match from this weekend. On Sunday, Benfica travels to Vila do Conde to take on Rio Ave, a match which historically has had some challenges. We're going to talk through a couple of topics regards to that match. So we're going to go through the current standings of the Portuguese League, kind of go through where we're at, where Rio Ave is, how they've been doing. Past fixtures, how have we done there? Again, you'll see it hasn't been easy over the past couple years. Starting 11, there are some expected changes. There may be some question marks in terms of injuries, who's available. We'll talk through that. What are our expectations? What do we expect from the team? Will we see hopefully improvements from the past match that we had against Ferenc? And of course, our prediction in terms of, who do we think is going to win? How do we think it's going to play out? And lastly, we'll provide you with some broadcasting information in terms of where you can watch the match, depending on what location or what country you're located in. So we'll kick it off with the standings. Benfica finds themselves in first place. We've scored 10, conceded 3. Unfortunately, we conceded those 2 goals against Ferenc, which were quite disappointing. Rio Ave, on the other hand, find themselves 13th. They've tied all 3 games, which was surprising. They've only scored 2 goals. They've conceded 2 goals. So a team that doesn't score much, but they also don't concede very much. Expected some growing pains. They lost their manager, Carlos Carvalhal, went to Braga, as everyone knows. They lost 2 pieces that were fundamental to their team last year, which was Taremi and Nuno Santos. So especially I think Taremi was probably a bigger loss for them, having gone to Porto. So not surprised to see 2 goals only scored this season. But it'll be interesting to see kind of how things progress. And with Mario Silva joining them as the new manager, kind of young manager. He's from the Porto area. You can expect that he's going to be up for this match on Sunday. He won't want to drop any points. So we'll jump into past fixtures there. So just the last 5 fixtures. This only includes league fixtures. Last year we won there 2-1. If you guys remember, Weigl scored the goal 85th minute or something. I think that was his first goal, right? Or maybe his only goal. Yeah.
Probably for the only one for the league.
Yeah. And then in the earlier match of that season, Benfica won 2-0. Season before that, we went there and won 2-3. The home fixture 4-2, and then 17-18, a pretty large victory there, 5-1. So as you can see there, some drastic differences in kind of the goal scoring results for those matches. But I guess let's talk in regards to the starting 11, and then we'll kind of go into the match expectation and what we think. So I guess we'll start from the back. Odysseus, I think we're in agreement.
Yeah,
he's obviously going to start. I think in the defense, there's maybe some question marks. Maybe not on the wings, but André Almeida, Grimaldo, I think are guaranteed unless there's an injury. The center backs, I guess I'll open it up to you. What are your thoughts? I know Vertonghen's maybe question mark with his bone fracture.
Well, Vertonghen's definitely, if he's available, I definitely think he slides in.
Yep.
I think Otamendi takes the spot still over Ferro. But Ferro can come in. If Vertonghen's not ready, I think I would go with Ferro overall because I don't think we have slim pickings from the center back position. So,
but do you think with the question mark with Vertonghen, Jorge Jesus has said that there's still some things that Ferro needs to improve on. Given that he's had a little bit of time with the international break with Todibo, I'm going to throw a wild card out there. Do you think that there's a potential that if Vertonghen's not healthy, does Todibo kind of leapfrog Ferro into that, potential starting role alongside Otamendi? What are your thoughts there?
I wouldn't disagree with it, but it all depends on how long or if Jorge Jesus has had enough time with him to teach him his ways, I would say.
Yeah, I don't know if you've
I don't know if he wants to rush him right into the starting 11.
Yeah, it's a it's definitely a challenge.
Jorge Jesus likes to challenge his players.
Exactly. So. He tends to surprise people. And I thought about you when I was doing some research on him and doing some looking up some videos of him, because I know you have a fond appreciation for David Luiz, and this guy. He reminds me a little bit. I know I talked about on the Portuguese podcast with Cristiano. If you watch him, he does have some similarities with him in terms of the way he approaches the play, the way he comes out trying to play with the ball at his feet. So I was thinking, as the season progresses and we continue to have these conversations, we might find another guy on your list that, he's a big fan favorite of yours, given the way he plays.
I mean, David Luiz just always played for the jersey. It's just how much he loves Benfica and everything with it. He embraced us. He loves us. He's one of us now. So if Vila could be like that, hey, I'm all for it too.
Be good.
He's a young kid too. So I mean, eventually, I think it's going to be him and Vertonghen going forward. I like Otamendi. I think he's too aggressive for my liking. Saw that happen last game.
It's a very South American hot boy.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that he'll run through you. Doesn't give a damn.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously some question marks in the back four. Moving further up the pitch, the four in the midfield. On the wings, I think Rafa and Everton again guaranteed, unless there's some injuries. In the middle, again, there's some question marks there. I know Tarap's been struggling with an injury. Is he fit? Is he not? We'll find out on Saturday with the pre-match press conference. But Gabriel most likely starts there. But what are your thoughts there? What do you think would be the best fit given kind of what we can expect from Rio Ave?
Looking at their team, I wrote down Gabi and Pizzi play in the middle, with Everton or Rafa on the wings. I do have some question marks on our wings. I do like how Everton plays. I just think he needs to show a little bit more overall. And Rafa's a Rafa, man. He's
so hit or miss.
Dude, it's like you could talk crap about him 1 second, then he does something good. It's just like, damn, dude. He's just one of those players.
That's the frustrating thing, right? And on the Everton thing, I would say that I think against Famalicão we saw a different Everton in the sense of he was the guy that kind of stringed the defensive line with the offensive line. He was quick coming out playing. He was beating that one defender and going. Against Moreirense, we didn't see as much of that. I think maybe because we spent most of the time in our offensive third, so there wasn't that need to kind of link those two areas. And then against Ferenc, I didn't think he was that good. I still think he's adjusting to the European style of play. I think in Brazil, he's more used to guys standing off of him kind of having a little bit more respect and more time to play. But it'll be interesting to see against Rio Ave side, who, as we can see, doesn't concede very much, tends to be very compact in a way in a stadium that generally isn't easy for us. It'll be interesting to see kind of how he reacts to that. And in terms of the midfield, I would say Pizzi and Gabriel probably are the suited fit there. Weigl coming in. If Weigl comes in, I don't think Gabriel plays, right? Just having the two of them, I don't think makes sense.
I think Pizzi starts in there. Unless I think the two guys I'm going up front are different because else you slide Pizzi behind the striker. But I pick two different guys up front for the starting lineup.
Okay, and then all right, so I'll let you go first in terms of the strikers. What are you thinking?
It's Luka and Darren.
Okay.
Gotta go with the two kids came in.
Yeah, I agree. I think hopefully this is the game that Darren scores, so people start talking about. It's driving me crazy. I mean, he's not like good.
It's just the price tag. It's always going to come with it. Yep. When you pay someone 25, he's a striker. Everyone's like, he's got to score goals. Even though he's been part of 3 according to Benfica 4
assists.
4 assists. So he's been part of the game. I just want to see Luka kind of. I think he's starting to get the hang of the Portuguese League a little bit. He's starting to learn it faster. He just scored a nice banger this weekend.
Yeah, for Germany.
So probably bring some confidence back and hopefully
it'll be good to
form a good partnership with them.
Yeah, I mean they looked good against Famalicão. Again, against Moreirense, we played well. We're on the front foot most of the time. Ferenc was kind of a mishap, different type of game, different kind of reaction. Hopefully we can show a little bit more with the international breaks. I know there were some players that were away and traveling and stuff, so that might play into it. I mean, Everton was away in South America, so that could potentially cause some problems.
But it's good for the players. It's good for those players that stay at home, though.
Correct. Yeah. And
Right.
I mean, fortunately, PZ stayed, Rafa stayed, right? So we had some guys.
Rafa was in Portugal.
Oh yeah, sorry. I meant like he stayed in the country.
Yeah.
He, unfortunately, from where we played against Sweden to coming back home isn't too much of a ride for him. So, it'll just be interesting to see kind of how that also plays into. I think they had their first training session today. So fortunately, there's still a couple of days before the match kicks off. So hopefully there's not too much fatigue in those legs for them to kick off and get running on Sunday. So given kind of the starting 11, I think, again, barring any injuries, I think that at this time, it kind of picks itself. I just wanted to kind of touch on Rio Ave real quick, just before we kind of go into the expectation of what we think can or will happen in terms of the match. Like I said, they've drawn 3 games this season. They tied 1-1 at Tondela in the first game of the season. They tied in the 92nd minute, so they were down most of the game. They hosted Guimarães. They played to a 0-0 draw. And their last match, they played away to Famalicão, and they scored in the 78th minute equalizer. In between all of this, they've played quite a few games. To begin the season, they had 3 games from a Europa League perspective. They traveled to Bosnia to take on, I think it was Borac. They won that game 2-0. They went to Besiktas. They tied it in the 85th minute. They went to extra time. Versus Milan, we all saw what the hell happened there. It was just a complete circus, penalties.
Dude, that was nuts.
So, in the grand scheme of all those 6 games, the only match that they've been leading was against Borac when they won 2-0, right? But apart from that, in regulation and regular time, they've not led any other game. So they've kind of been always chasing. They've always been behind, with the exception of the Guimarães game. I know against Milan, they took the lead in extra time. Besiktas, again, they were tied after 90 minutes. So it's going to be a difficult match. Again, with the coach that they have, his background, his history, his knowing of the league, his knowing of Benfica, he's gonna be up for this. And just wanted to touch on Benfica's last 5 games in Vila Conde. We won 2-1, we won 3-2, we drew 1-1, and then we won 2 games 1-0. So in the last 5 games, it's always been by 1 goal if we won, right? So it's not going to be easy. We were talking off air before we jumped on. The last time Benfica won there by 2 goals or more, ironically, Jorge Jesus was the manager, 2012-2013 season. Lima scored 2 goals, Rodrigo scored 1. So we've played 6 games since that match in Vila Conde, winning 4, losing 1, tying 1. So I don't expect it to be easy. I'll pass it over to you to kind of give me your thoughts, what you expect on Rio Ave and how they'll approach it, but more so kind of how you think Benfica will approach it in terms of the starting 11 that we talked about, what we've seen, and kind of what we hope to see in that match.
So I kind of did a little research on Rio Ave, and they seem to be playing with like 2 center defensive mids in there. So going with that, I feel like they're going to play defense. They're going to go on the counterattack. They got fast guys. They have really fast wingers, and Gelson Dalla is pretty quick with Beyonce, Mane, Diego Lopes, who was Benfica signed for like a year or 2 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
What I expect Benfica to win this game, obviously, but I do think the game has goals. I think both teams do score.
Interesting.
I'm not going to give my prediction just yet, but I do think that Rio Ave is going to play on the counter. I do think that they will slip one in there, probably kind of wake up Benfica. Okay. It's a tough game for us. You look at the last game that we played them. Like, it took 2 red cards for us to kind of get going, bro. Yeah. It really did. Like, I actually saw, as I was watching the highlights of the game, I was like, I remember this game. Taremi, firstly, disallowed a goal from Rafa from VAR. Taremi scored on the set piece, go figure. That didn't surprise me. Then we got the red card. Maserati got a second yellow, and then they got another card by Nuno Santos when he tried to karate kick PZ.
Yeah,
that was kind of entertaining.
And then the press said that Bruno Lage asked them to get the red card. Remember that?
Yeah, it took us a while to get going in that game, and I don't know. Like we also talked about last year, how the team kind of played a little and they didn't have no inspiration on that team. Didn't believe in the coach. So I mean, I think obviously Jesus is Jorge Jesus is a different coach.
Yeah,
he plays a different style. I think they'll be better prepared. But I do think that with everything that went on, some players coming back, I think it takes them a little while to kind of get going. And I think Rio Ave kind of gets an early lead, to be honest.
Ooh, bold. Yeah, I mean, I would say in terms of Rio Ave, I think everything kind of leads to it being a cagey match, being a difficult match. Again, I feel like when we expect it to be difficult, sometimes it turns out to be easy, and sometimes when we expect it to be easy, like against Ferenc, it turned out
last week I thought it was a cakewalk.
Yeah,
I think I told you 4-0. I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, so it's just
we were barely holding on.
I think everything kind of points to a difficult, tight match. Again, I see it being very cagey, back and forth, chances here and there, and not forget, having watched kind of the highlights of Rio Ave's matches so far this season, they have a goalkeeper in them who tends to kind of step up to the occasion. Watching some of the highlights against Tondela, Guimarães, Famalicão, especially against Famalicão and even Guimarães, Chiazak made some massive saves to keep them in that game, right?
He's an old school vet.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, he's the guy last year who came out and said, like, he doesn't want to lose to Benfica. He'd rather tie this game so he can beat Benfica, something like that, right? Like that in itself, like, this guy's going to be amped up because he's bitter because he didn't end up completing a transfer to Benfica, I think a few years ago, whatever the case may be. So with that, with their manager, Fabio Coentrão's back, who knows if he'll play. So,
I saw that too. I was like, whoa.
So I mean, you have all these kind of added pieces to it, and it just adds a little bit more, gasoline to the fire. From a Benfica perspective, again, I think that the formation speaks for itself in terms of how we should play or how we will play. Right? I expect us to be on the front foot, but I don't expect us to be on the front foot for large periods of the game. I think we're going to have some moments where we're going to have to drop off. We're going to have to suffer. I think with Felipe Augusto in that midfield, he controls their midfield quite well. Tarantini's another guy who's slow, but he's smart. He positions himself well. He occupies space very well. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how we go through those phases. I think it'll be, Benfica may come out, stronger, but then I think we'll drop off. I don't expect us to be pressing high, majority of the game, just because Rio Ave has the capability to play out. But then also they have that long ball, right? With Dala and all those guys, they have the capability to play a ball over the top. But Vertonghen's not the fastest, and that Almeida's not the fastest, right? So I see them trying to expose our right side, if anything. So I think
it could be either side, because Grimaldo likes to push up front, and that side open. So
yeah,
I mean, they have two fast wingers, man. They can fly down the wings. So that's what usually kind of bites us in the butt too.
Yeah, and having that outlet, right? Having that outlet to be able to kind of just get it out and get out, I think will keep Benfica kind of on their toes in the sense of, okay, like we want to push up, but we got to be careful when we press, because if we don't all press, right, then we're in trouble, because that ball over the top, now we're chasing. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how we set up for how we approach it. Again, the two center backs are going to make the difference depending on who's there. If it's Otamendi and Vertonghen, both of them aren't that fast, right? So I would assume one of those is going to drop off. If, with the likelihood of Otamendi playing. Maybe
Tabilu plays, dude.
That's right. Tabilu's, he's quick. So, but I could see this game being an interesting one for Otamendi specifically, depending on how it plays out, right? With their pace, with their ability to cut inside. He's a very rash player. He's very, 0 or 100. More often than not, it's 100. So I could see him kind of getting himself in a little bit of trouble, maybe some fouls. I hope that's not the case, but it's very possible.
Can't average a PK game. Still more PK.
In terms of kind of what we've just discussed, I guess we can kind of shift over to kind of our predictions. Since you're the guest for the first episode, I'll pass it to you and kind of what are your thoughts in terms of what you expect here?
So, like I mentioned, I think Rio Ave scores first, but then that's obviously just I think Benfica is going to settle in. They have to settle into the game. I think they're going to come out hot. They're going to get the early goal, probably in the first 15 minutes. But I say Benfica is going to win 3-1, and Luka scores one, and I think Darwin scores a double.
Oh man, I would like that.
I think that's what happens this game. So that's my prediction for this game.
I'm gonna say,
but it's still good. I think it's going to be a hard 3-1. It's not going to be.
Yeah.
I think Rio not a pushover in the Portuguese League.
No,
they have good talent. They've been showing it, and they also you can see how they've been playing the Liga Europa against Milan, Benfica. So it's going to be a tough squad.
Which is surprising, right? Because having lost at least those two figures, right, and having lost their coach, you would have thought that they may have kind of dropped off. They would have lost some of their identity. But watching kind of some of their games, they still maintain kind of that identity, the way they play. I think missing the goals up top is obviously their big loss. So it'd be interesting to see kind of how it progresses. But I think it's going to be a difficult match. I think Benfica ends up winning. I think we're going to at some point have a difficult 2-0 lead, and Rio Ave scores one in the final 20 minutes, which makes the last portion of the game very, very suspect and back and forth. So I feel like it's going to be a nail biter towards the end. But even then, I think even with Benfica leading 2-0, I still think it's going to be a very tough and hard-earned 2-0 to that point. I expect to have no nails by the end of the match.
Yeah, I don't have any.
And I'm gonna say Darwin scores at least one goal. I'm not sure who's going to score the second one. I get some sense that maybe there's a penalty on the cards here. I'm not sure, but I just get the sense that Darwin maybe scores one. If he doesn't have one and we already have a 1-0 lead, maybe PZ will give it to Darwin so he can take it.
Yeah, right.
I don't know what he's like in penalties. So maybe if he's practiced them in practice, I don't know. Maybe he'll let him take them. I don't know.
Didn't he get a goal disallowed in Uruguay too? Because he was offsides or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Can't buy a goal, dude.
All right, so there you have it. You have our predictions. I'm going with a 2-1. Jason's going with a 3-1. For those of you around the world, depending on where you're watching, where you're located, we have some information here for you in terms of broadcasting. Just a few countries we have listed here. So in Portugal, Sport TV1, the US, Gol TV Espanol, in Cabo Verde and Angola, Sport TV Africa, Brazil, ESPN Brazil, and in France, RMC Sports 2. If your country's not listed, check out our friends, livesoccertv.com. They have a mobile app, works for your Android, works for your iOS, Apple device. Their website as well. Good friends of mine. They will not just the Portuguese League, but every game that you want to watch. They'll tell you what channel it's going to be on, what country, what location. So check them out, livesoccertv.com. And hopefully your country is listed. If not, there's some information at the bottom that you can submit to them, and hopefully they can gather some information for you. With that, we're going to kind of close off. Any, I guess, final thoughts in terms of the game, Jason? Anything that we didn't cover that we've left unsaid that we want to touch on?
No, I'm ready for it. I'm ready to see what these guys got.
All right. So I'll give you some information here in terms of our social media presence. As always, thank you for listening. First match preview in English, hopefully of many. You can catch us on email, ucantinhobenfiquista@gmail.com, facebook.com/ucantinhobenfiquista, on Twitter, my personal account, mgonsalves10, Jason Tank Defont, on our YouTube channel, O Cantinho Benfiquista, and we are on Instagram as well, O Cantinho Benfiquista. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the subscribe button. It's down below us somewhere. I don't know if it's on the left or the right, depending on how this turns around. Hit the bell button. It'll give you notifications when we post. We will be back early next week to talk about the match, how it played out. Hopefully we'll all be happy. Myself and Jason will be here. Hopefully we'll have a couple more guests to kind of have a roundtable discussion. We'll have some beer, some laughs, some jokes. Hopefully it's a good mood. And again, thank you for listening. Stay tuned. And as always, Viva o Benfica.
Viva o Benfica.